Yeah,
Yeah, we'll
yeah.
see if that question. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's
I'll
awesome.
see the
All right.
chat thing too.
We're now live.
Okay, we are live.
All right. All
Welcome
right.
to, welcome to a very special edition of New Realities and Portal to Ascension joint conference on this international forum on UFOs. And the purpose that I wanted to have for this is to show this is a worldwide phenomenon. It's not something isolated to the United States or parts of Europe or South America. This is a global phenomena, and we have some amazing researchers and people really on the scene here from Asia. This is like a kind of Asian component, and maybe we'll do a series, Neil. I'm working with Neil Gaur here, Portal to Ascension, on different parts of the world, and then like bring everyone together. So, Neil, do you want to introduce who's here today with us?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I just want to first say hi to everybody tuning in, and I am excited for this. Something definitely been in the back of my consciousness for quite some time is the reality that this is a worldwide phenomena, and that there's so much information for us on the U.S. circuit. So really expanding it outside, and when you expand it beyond that too, it's not so much of the even though there's a lot of experiencers and testimonies of experiences in the States, there's a lot of concentration on like the mainstream, UFO disclosure from the government. So it expands out to more of the experiencer and what is actually happening, so we can start integrating, the reality of this, this phenomena and what this really means for humanity, the bigger picture. So that's my 2 cents on this right here, and I'm excited to continue this for. Hopefully, we can do this every few months. All right.
Definitely. One more thing I want to say is that, I just think the phenomena is talking or interacting with us on a global level, and that's really part of this too. So, yeah,
Yeah.
let's tell people who's here today. And
All right.
'cause
So let me go ahead and introduce who we have with us on this panel. We have Pete Whitley here with us. Wait, say hi, Pete.
Hello.
And
Greetings.
Pete Whitley is the national director of MUFON of Japan and a member of the MUFON Experiencer Resource Team, a former counselor with degrees in psychology and biology. He is also an experiencer himself. As a researcher, he primarily focuses on reports of human contact with non-human intelligence. His pioneering work in astral projection has resulted in a new contact modality for interaction and communication with our visitors. You can keep up with his latest research on petewhitley.org. So welcome, brother.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. And then we also have Greg. Greg, go ahead and give us a wave. And
Hi.
Greg is a JSETI director. Greg Sullivan is a researcher, author, experiencer, and musician who has been generating a vast array of ET contact resources from Japan for 11 years. Through several hundred guided ET contact retreats, he has done an extensive study of Japan's spiritual elements, those both known and unknown to the West. Overcoming the formidable language barrier, Greg carries out his work in fluent Japanese, interfacing with many publishers and media outlets, including nationwide TV programs. With a growing community of tens of thousands around Japan and overseas, JSETI is helping to expand the Japanese spiritual potential for the modern cosmic age. And currently with a side project, ETSPI, which is extraterrestrial spirituality, he helps clients in the Starseed and Indigo community to come into full awareness to their hidden potentials and overcome many of the sometimes inflexible boundaries placed on them by Japanese society. This ascension work incorporates advanced healing work with ET guides for light body and full conscious activations. Greg, it's so good to have you here, brother.
Thanks, Neil. Nice to meet you today. Thank you. Hi, everyone.
thanks for being here. And Shao Ma.
Thank you.
Yes, Xiao Ma is. It's how this whole thing happened. I could read Shao Ma. She's a Chinese UFO researcher in the consciousness studies field. She has an extensive contact experience with non-human intelligences through various paranormal contact modalities. She has been invited to various media forums, channels, conferences in China and around the world, and her focus is on sharing, discussing ufology and spiritual information with the Chinese, about the Chinese, even though she had to leave China herself to do that. Xiao, thanks for being here. And this whole thing really started with you when I interviewed you originally, and you said you were in touch with a lot lot of people in Asia, really. And do you want to just talk about what the Asian UFO scene is? And, that includes Australia, where you're located, and your interests and how you see this as a worldwide phenomena. So, yeah, please.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Alan and you. So how I got into this is after our last interview, as you know. So I reached out to Pete and Greg, who are based in Japan, and both of them are quite famous in Japan in terms of UFO and spiritual sort of information and materials. So we basically just connected through various friends' recommendation. And then we had quite a few I would say private meetings online, getting to know each other. So that's how we literally connected based in Asia. Because my thoughts are, we rather than just have that silo mindset running our own show, we better just make that connection. So every now and then on quarterly basis like that, and Pete and Greg and I, or even a Korean UFO researcher, we can exchange some information about what's going on in Asia. And we can just compare the local experiences with each other, like, oh, that's what's going on in China, in Japan, and Korea. And we're more than happy to, join your show and your new show just to share information with our, brothers and sisters in Western countries.
Well, what is going on? I'll ask everyone here, and Neil jump in too. What is going on? In Asia and China, in particular, where you're connected. But tell people who don't know about the UFO phenomena in those places. And Asia, which is really the largest population on the planet, is Asian. So yeah.
Yeah, look, I'll make that very short. So basically, from my perspective, what's going on in China is that so many people, if people know that there are literally 1.4 billion population in China, which is a very big country, of course. So a lot of people in China, especially the younger generation Chinese, are starting to waking up. When I say that, it not just mean they have to know ufology, but also to the point that they're very conscious, aware about what's going on in their life, and and the interaction with interdimensional beings or spirits like that. And you may heard about the contact modalities, which introduced by Ray Hernandez. So that's kind of various different form of contact experience that are happening in China literally right now. And this is just so common to see so many people are fully awakened at this stage. But the issue with China is, again, that's very unique. Part of the Chinese is that we have to battling with the political control. That is something very different compared with our Western community. Because if people wanted to do a show, they can literally open up and just be a YouTuber. But that's really not the case in China. There's a lot of risks that people need to take just to step outside of their comfort zone to share. Look, this is me. This is what's happening to me. That's what's going on. So you might risk your life or even to be put in jail if you're willing to do that. It's a very high risky sort of position for people to take. So I just want to share the information that in China, yes, a lot of people are fully awakened and they're really thirsty, looking for information like the information from your platform and news portal to Ascension. But it's just from the grassroots level. But meanwhile, we have to face that kind of very stringent political control, suppression. At least that's from my perspective. Chinese are battling with this kind of situation more than any other countries around the world. So I'll leave the Japan side to Pete and Greg to comment.
Well, I'm just curious before you go, or move on, but what's the percentage of people in China that are aware of the UFO phenomena? I mean, because I mean, who knows what it is here? Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, look, just in my opinion, again, just my perspective, I think, strictly speaking, just looking at the contact modality in a form of UFO contact, ET contact, I would say 30% to 40% people would just say admit or say yes, they have that kind of contact, more or less.
Mm.
And you get maybe more like 20 or 30% of people say, oh, I don't remember, or I don't know, but I'm very open to it. So I'm actually thinking maybe only 1/3 of the population will say, I don't believe this. This is,
Right.
crap or whatever. So I think more than half of the population in China, more or less, are quite open to this topic, but they're very conscious, like very careful about what they can share and admit to it in public.
Right, it's dangerous to be a ufologist in China, yes. Well, let's move to Japan. We'll come back to China. So, Pete, you're part of the MUFON organization. So, what is the situation in Japan, and what's like? Because you're tracking all of Japan and their sightings. So, what's going on there?
Japan has a vibrant UFO community. I find Japanese people to be very open to it. One difference I would say as an American living in Japan, I believe that in Japan, UFOs are prominent. We do see UFOs on TV quite a bit, for example. But in my opinion, it seems like it's treated more as entertainment here versus whereas in America, there's a little more, especially now, serious discourse going on. But we certainly have that vibrant community. Yeah.
It's still entertainment here for the most part, but so what kind of sightings are people having, and what's like the percentage of the population? But what are you seeing in Japan?
In terms of differences from what we see in America, the sightings, the reports we get here in Japan from MUFON, we get a lot more of the orb reports, lights in the sky that seem to be intelligently controlled. Versus on the American side, we get a lot of the more traditional saucer or cigar-shaped UFO sightings. So that's a difference, and I'm not sure exactly what we can attribute that to, but that is a difference.
But how many reports do you get, like a month, a day? I mean, is there a central MUFON place in Japan to report, and how many do you get?
Yeah, MUFON's not that well known in Japan. The past 2 years since I've been the national director here, I've been trying to get it more well known. We get anywhere from a half dozen to a dozen reports a month. I'd like to see that go up. In America, we get dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of reports, regardless of where you are. Yeah, but yeah, as part of my role here is to raise an awareness. And thank you for having me on. Hopefully, this helps get the word out.
Well, hopefully this will reach an international crowd. One more thing about reports. I figure that for every sighting that's reported, might be hundreds that go unreported. I mean, I haven't reported my sightings. I mean, I just had last couple of years, and then it's like, well, that was interesting, but
Yeah.
so
Sightings are like cockroaches. If you get one report, there's 100 that have gone unreported. Absolutely.
Right. Well, thanks. We'll come back to you. And Greg, thank you also for being here from Japan. So what's the perspective you see from your point of view? And how do you work with MUFON also, Greg?
Hi, Alan. Yep, nice to see you again today.
Great.
I've met, thanks to Xiao's amazing coordination here, Peter and I have connected, and we've connected with other researchers in Asia. And it's exciting to finally bring all of our 10 years or so of J-City activity to the Western world. It takes all of my effort to do. I'm fully focused in the Japanese community here full time, so I rarely get the occasion to do videos and stuff in English. So I'm so thankful for this meeting today. But yeah, our perspective has been really to connect that very active UFO kind of entertainment sort of / occult community, connecting the two fields with the very vibrant spiritual community as well. So we've provided a bridge that lets people move out of the potential fear factor and sort of the old abduction and implant paradigm to more of the actual, having your own experience and the spiritual awakening / inner ascension aspect of things. So I find that especially in since the lockdowns have started, Japan was quite behind this curve with YouTube and everything. So it was really kind of a publisher's game up until then, where you had to have your own platform. You had to have a connection to a publisher or whatnot to get the word out. But now that really the dam is, the levee is broken, and we have a whole new generation of YouTubers, and people are coming on more and more with their own sightings and video and own experiences in Japan here all across the country.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned a kind of spiritual awakening there in Japan, and I think that's Shao's connection to the Chinese people coming forward and talking about that. So what is the kind of spiritual scene in Japan, and how's that connected, you see, to the UFO phenomena?
The spiritual New Age scene here is extremely well developed, and we've had a lot. There was a Bashar boom in the '90s, and they have a lot of Western kind of authors and speakers here over the years. But besides channeling, there has been a lot of a lack of actual sort of disclosure / ET contact information. So we've done one of our purposes to be working through JSETI is to kind of fill that gap. And we've done over 500 contact retreats and outings over the last 10 years where we've had just amazing experiences. Like Pete mentioned, the light ships and orbs are really active, and actually a lot of craft on the ground, like in the mountains. And there's a long history of that hinotama, it's called, balls of light, hinotama. There was several instances around through the 70s, 80s, and 90s in Nagano Prefecture, and different ancient power sites and areas around Japan where there have been long decades of local sightings, reported by all sorts of people from all walks of life.
But one more question, and Neil, please join in. Are there abductions going on in Japan? Are people reporting that? Maybe Pete can also answer that. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we do get abduction reports from here in Japan. Yeah, we do.
Wow.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
What do you find, Greg, too? That
what's funny is here is a lot of people have to see the contact stories that I've encountered have been a lot of people as elementary school students. I have a lot of people come up to me and say, we as a group of students, we all saw this ship, in the schoolyard. Or a lot of people have that kind of, that's been a case in Australia and other countries over the years where, they have this mass sighting as children. So
Africa, right. The Africans. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the seed was planted, and so that as these people have become adults, they're not averse to the topic. So I think that, I agree with Pete completely. The people are very open-minded to it here, and they have through the ancestral spirit and the Shinto and Buddhist teachings that they are open to the world of the unseen. But there has been a lack of really more modern information lately. So thanks to our work and others getting the word out, we're really kind of doing a version update of the UFO scene here.
Yeah, Neil, what were you
amazing. Well, I'm just taking it all in, just learning from everyone here. But it's really nice to just hear what's going on around the world. And I kind of had a feeling, Xiao, what you explained about China, that it's definitely not something commonplace that people can just speak about openly. And then the whole concept of what you said about, like, in the US, that influencers can just start a YouTube channel and no one's going to give them anything for doing that, and they can even make money from it from YouTube and just do it full time. And we get that opportunity here, which makes this awareness get out on a whole unprecedented level. But over there, like, if you were to do that, you could actually probably get arrested or, something along those lines, right? And so can you speak on that a little bit more? Yeah. Absolutely.
Let me give you a very simple example. Like, as you may know, that Ray Hernandez, he's actually a co-founder of FRIE, but now it's called CCI. So Ray actually proposed to me that, hey, Xiao, so many things going on in China. Why don't you just circulate a survey, and we like to see the statistics collected from China about the ET experiences. I think it's a great idea. But a lot of Westerners doesn't understand how difficult to do so in China. I want to do that, even though I got the connections, I can just circulate to all my viewers and friends, and they can come back to me. But you need to be extremely careful in China. Reason being, if I circulate such a survey, try to collect those called data, right? So the Chinese government may see that action itself is trying to collect like more like a spy, like sort of like behavior? Are you trying to do a survey about Chinese in terms of that? Why you try to collect that information, collect that data? So even though it's very from a goodwill a place with a good intention to support consciousness study, but such action itself may have a different interpretation from a political thing. So you need to be very, very careful. Even though I hold 2 conferences in China, people say, oh, it's such a simple thing. You can give them a form to fill in about this and that. Yes, it all sounds good. But in China, everything you need to do, you have to be extra vigilant, think twice or 3 times before you do so, because you may get yourself into big trouble, which I already have. So I totally agree with you on that. It's just in China, it's a totally different game. So people need to be very careful. Otherwise,
Right.
they may put you in jail.
Well, that was my follow-up question to that was, how do you fly under the radar? But you just said you already got in trouble once. So how do you fly under the radar if you're doing 2 conferences? And what do you mean by, you got in trouble once?
Yeah, so I elaborated a bit more during my last interview with Alan back in last year. So what happened is, I think it's all sort of like designed by extraterrestrials from higher realms. So one of the advantage which I have is that I'm actually based in Sydney, Australia. So I'm not physically based in China at this stage. So when I started to share my information with all the Chinese, is I would do so very similar like to like YouTube stuff, but through WeChat. They have like video functions or audio functions. So, but during that time, I'm talking like back in 2016, 17, 18, that time when China wasn't so absolute close on those topics. So every now and then you can share the information. But when I share, people listen to you and give me some feedback and just, that kind of interaction. But what I actually learned is a lot of the local authority will tap into those calls and emails, try to see what's going on. But they try to remain on the radar, try to check me out. Who is she? What's her background? What she's doing here? But wasn't that bad. So even though the information is shared in China, every now and then I can see the interviews being taken out from the mainstream platforms in China, like very, very similar to YouTube's. They will take them out, and then my friends have to upload it again. Like my fans have to upload it again, and you wait for 2 weeks, and it's being sort of marked as the yellow sign. So they try to take that down again. So it's a bit of battle, and so the things really kind of go downwards when I finally able to complete 2 conferences in China. But that's another story. It's very lengthy, but was putting a lot of effort with all my friends, and just such a battle just to have that 2 conferences in China, Shanghai, and Beijing. But eventually we got into big trouble. So the local authority actually almost tried to hunt me down. They sort of called me as alien cult leader, trying to start something new in China. And they literally told me off and not to come back to China. And wow. They put me in the official CCP official newspaper, such a release. Whoa. This is what happens, and you must not allowed to do that. Nobody can follow her. It's very similar things like that. And how we call the intelligence community play this kind of game. They will try to put you down, like demean you, or she's a liar, she's this and that, she's not this and this. So try to basically be ruin your reputation. And then hopefully nobody will follow you again. So I got into big trouble after that 2 conferences, and no one can literally find all my information on Chinese mainstream medias anymore, not even alternative smaller channels. It's all being removed. Mm-hmm. But that's a risky job to do in China. You have to be very careful about the words that you could use during each interview. So it's take a lot of your brain power to think about how to articulate to sort of give your viewer a hint about what you're trying to say. So it's not like, oh, I can say whatever I want, just like in this channel, I can share with everyone. It's not like that. So people need to appreciate the freedom of speech in Japan and in the Western world. So we don't really get that much in China.
Right. So are you communicating with Chinese now, or are you kind of blocked from communicating with Chinese citizens?
I'm blocked from going public about my information. But nevertheless, as you have that sort of like a fan group or friends group, so I'm still in constant contact with them. So yeah,
So
privately,
you're still in touch with a lot of Chinese people reporting their interactions, huh?
yeah, not just like fans and friends, but also there's quite a few famous figures in China too. Not necessarily in the UFO community, but like spiritual leaders in China, such as small communities. So basically, everyone knows each other. Some of them are quite supportive and say, "Yeah, see what's going on." So I do keep that good relationship with them. So that's the good things about it. But just more like a friends to friends level, privately speaking, not in a public sense. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, well, just want to ask Pete, that came to me the idea, how big is the UFO sightings all over Asia? I mean, I know you're in Japan, but are you tracking the area as well? So what do you sense there in that part of the world?
Well, I sense it's very big. Honestly, I sense it's just as big as it is anywhere else. I think, honestly, sightings occur all over the world, pretty much to the same degree, to be honest with you. And, with my work with the Experiencer Resource Team, we get, basically what happens when someone contacts MUFON and they, in their report, they say that they had contact with an entity. They forward that to us, and we get basically the same kind of reports that we see all around the world. There's a lot of similarities. Absolutely. I think it's the same all around the world.
But it seems like, at least here in this country, it's increasing. It seems like there are more sightings. Is that true there as well? I guess there's more sightings.
Yeah, I would say so. In the past several years, there has been an increase. Absolutely. Greg, would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It's definitely ramping up. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what do you make of it, Greg? I mean, what's going on, especially with this spiritual component as well?
Yeah, I think we're definitely in the hardcore, heart of ascension. The Neil's channel called the portal of ascension there. So yeah, we're deep in the portal. We're more than halfway through. So yeah, I think for me, ET contact is the whole context of it is ascension based in a way, and the whole this shift of timelines and this literally into a new reality, the shift into a new reality. So we're retrieving our galactic heritage and learning that the ET groups are our galactic family. So many of them have been coming in and out of the Earth for ages. So yeah, so basically for me it's like a remembering of our distant galactic past, cosmic past.
But do you think we're reaching a threshold where it's like going to just be right out there for everyone?
Yeah, well, that's the tipping point. That sort of collective consciousness, the 1%. It's sometimes called, where we have to be a part of this process. So for the ATs to come in and kind of impose themselves from the outside is sort of would be a major violation of free will, as it's usually recognized. So the fact that we're getting involved from the ground to be a part of this, we're like breaking out of this cosmic egg, from the inside out. So they're helping us and tending to all the details outside the egg, but we're about to be the chick that breaks out from the inside. So it's a birthing process. There's a lot of growing pains, and we're getting hit with one wave of kind of things that can set us back as we see what's going on in the world right now. So I feel that the internal centering and the kind of divine neutrality, all these things are hints that are coming from ET contact and the spiritual contact, as I like to call it.
I love what you just said, divine neutrality. Can you just speak on that for a second?
Yes, we just did I just got off a live stream on our YouTube with a couple thousand on live, and we did this huge root chakra clearing because I find that just the what you might call the core fear program and the core fear, core anxiety is triggered so much by these basic human survival fears, like we've got war, disaster, natural disaster, poverty, and all these things that are kind of coming at us all at one, and of course disease. The big one's been disease for the past few years. So all of that kind of is stimulus to the damage and weak points of our light body, and especially the root chakra. So we just did a giant meditation where we cleared the root chakra, also connecting to points on the earth that relate to the root chakra, including Mount Shasta, and then just kind of trying to reprogram that into a neutral response where we don't get triggered. So a lot of the mental triggers start even below in the lower chakras, and we went all the way down to the root of the problem.
Wow. So there's like a spiritual revolution that's happening worldwide. I mean, you can see it here sort of, but I mean, I think Shao, you also talked about that with a lot of the Chinese people you've been dealing with. Their contact is more, in a way, spiritually based, right? Is that what you were telling me? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, because every civilization, as Greg just mentioned, have a different roots. Like as an Asian, especially for Chinese, they have such a connection with like and their ancestors and Buddhism and like a Tao sort of practice, yoga, qigong stuff. So the whole civilization is actually quite spiritual, but not in a way that Westerners would think, oh, you have to be a Christian, you have to do this to be considered as a spiritual person. They have a different way of practice their spirituality. For example, it's maybe a connection with the Buddhism or qigong, which is very similar to yoga things. They are, and not just UFO, but also they have a strong connection with like all forms of contact modalities. For example, one of our interpreters during the conference, he actually had a near-death experience. So he's really looking into near-death experience like as a contact modality. So he, formed a smaller group, taught to the local Chinese about that. So people try to be awakened through different, basically, contact modality. That's what I see from China. So and it could be as simple as people want to go to gym, eat healthy food, so that kind of lift them up, in terms of the awareness, the open mindset. And I tell you what, even like the older generation in China right now, like my mom and dad generation, you would assume that they probably would be more close because they went through the Cultural Revolution and all sorts, mindset things. But they starting to change their mindset, views on so many different things. So you can see more older generation are starting to have that mindset transformation. So I think that's part of a sign is to show that they're starting to step up to the next level of evolution. So
I think there's people definitely moving away from religion here to like more of a spirituality. That's why Portal to Ascension, I think, is really gaining momentum because people are looking for answers outside religion. And so
absolutely, I love that idea.
It's interesting how that's really going hand in hand with the UFO phenomenon, the spiritual, right, Neil? And so
Oh yeah, most definitely. Well, I just want to ask Shao, because that was actually the question you asked was kind of the question I was thinking about too. What's religion look like in China, and how does it connect to spirituality? And then, but just a little bit more, if you can maybe speak on this more, is so when people are waking up to the whole UFO, phenomena in China, are they coming in from a fact of just like a reality that they exist and they're flying, or is it becoming a spiritual connection, which is what I'm seeing in Japan, is that a lot of individuals there are more into the spiritual information, which is why Bashar, Adronis, Lisa Royale, all those individuals literally like work there full time for the most part. So what's your take on that, Shao?
That's great. Look, there are two different group of people from my perspective. In China, religion is very interesting things because when you look at Buddhism, it's not that kind of fix into like a religious dogma that much. So Buddhism is a bit like, they always have that idea, very common idea, like if you believe it's real, if you don't believe it's not there. They don't really force you to believe that kind of setting, like religious dogma, let's put in this way. What I actually think, which is very strange in China, is that when people just start to be awakened, like very early stage of awakening, they're very thirsty for information. But again, in China, like we all speak Chinese, so the information is very limited. So a lack of variety. So where people need to go if they like, oh, I'm starting to be awakened, but really thirsty for spiritual information, something to resonate with their like internal feelings. So they are looking for more. So generally speaking, funny enough, Chinese will turn into religion first. So as their like next groundbreaking sort of steps for them. The reason being, Buddhism really focus on not just like, oh, what does Buddha say that much, but focus on like meditation, a bit of more like spirituality, like how to be healthy, meditate. So it's a more softer way to break into spirituality. When they stay for a few years, a few months, and they think, oh, okay, I see what's this all about, and then they would do some yoga, Reiki. Reiki is very popular in China, and then they will just transform into pure spirituality, so no longer based on religion. So interesting in China, what I see is when people starting to have that awakening, they normally go into religion first, and then dive in, dive out, and seek different kind of pathways for their soul evolution. So that's just very unique sort of phenomena in China compared with the Western world.
Well, it's too bad that Mao and the Cultural Revolution wiped out a lot of the innate spirituality in China. The Taoist traditions are very, very spiritual, and they destroyed a lot of Taoist temples. A lot of them escaped to Taiwan. So the whole idea of spirituality has been just knocked out of at least the older generation there. I know because I studied Chinese medicine. I asked one of the teachers there from China, who was communist China, I said, what do you think of the I Ching? And she said, oh, that's superstition. And they missed the whole spiritual connect. That generation missed, I feel, the whole spiritual connection to their own tradition, to their own fantastic tradition. But I guess now it's coming back, is from what you're saying.
I just want to respond to your brilliant point, because if you know the Chinese Communist fundamental doctrine, Communist Party, even Soviet Union, they only believe like everything is material. There's nothing beyond materialistic world. So if they really cling to that political mindset or belief, they must not allow any other sort of ideology to exist. So if you say to them, oh, hang on a second, there's extra dimensional, like interdimensions in the world, you kind of try to challenge their fundamental political sort of stance. So that's why they will not allow this to happen, regardless whether it's Buddhism, religion, or Tao yoga. Anything that contains spirituality will be very challenged by the political suppression, because you literally said, no, CCP, you were wrong, because there's more than just material world. So they don't like that. So you can see the constant battle between the spirituality and the political belief. So
yeah.
Wow.
No, you're right. But I want to get back to Pete in Japan. Thanks, Xiao. That's great to get that perspective from on a planetary level. But I'm also interested, Pete, in, have you seen any hardcore UFO case? Like, what's the most exciting UFO MUFON case that you've seen in Japan over the last couple of years? And what was the interaction with ET consciousness there?
In the past several years, I would say we've had some exciting videos and pictures delivered to us. If we want to talk about Japan and the most exciting ET contact,
yes,
we'd have to go back to like the 70s. For instance, in fact, I can relate to you a story from the 70s. One of my favorites actually is someone someone that's interested primarily in human, extraterrestrial, non-human intelligence contact, something called the Kofu incident. This happened in 1975. There were two boys walking home from school. They saw an orange ball descend into a rice field. Okay? The orange ball lands, reveals itself to be a silver saucer. Okay? Out of this silver saucer comes a ladder. Down the ladder comes about a 4-foot tall entity, brown, very unlike the typical extraterrestrial you and I might think of. No facial features, save for a few fangs, okay? Now, these boys at this point are up close to the UFO, and they can see inside this object, and they see another smaller entity inside there. Now, this entity that was outside comes and taps one of the boys on the shoulder. And of course, rightly so, that boy freaks out. His friend has to basically carry him out of the field, and that's that. Now, that would just be a story if it had not also been sighted. That orange ball was sighted both before and after coming and going from that field, right? Yeah. To me, that's one of the biggest human, non-human contacts in Japanese history.
Wow, that's a great story. And that was in the 70s.
Yeah.
That's when the UFOs had ladders. I guess they don't have ladders. But they say, Grant Cameron in my book says, the UFO appeals to our sense of technology. So, right? Do you find that to be true?
Absolutely. You go back to, the early 1900s and people report seeing airships, right? But, in Jacques Vallée, Jean Keel talk a lot about this too.
Right.
And like you just said, the phenomenon presents itself in ways in which we can relate to it. Mm-hmm. There is a certain point where if we see something, we would not be able to understand it whatsoever. It has to come down to our level to some extent.
No, you're absolutely right. So, Greg, then, with the people that you're interacting with, like the next level, like with Pete was saying, is this idea of consciousness, so it's like, and also maybe what's happening in China, people are having dreams, but so the interactions, as we kind of become more spiritual, I guess, the interactions are happening more on that level. Is that true that you see, Greg?
Yes, I agree. Like with the Kofu incident, Japanese people have been such amazing observers, and there was a really active, Adamski. There was several groups cropped up around the George Adamski movement, so there is quite a bit of a research history from that point. But yeah, it is now shifting a lot more into the this sort of kind of like I mentioned before, the galactic level of things, and more esoteric things like you're saying dream contact and energy activations and all these sorts of non-physical and communication, telepathy and light language, all this. So every genre under the sun, people are kind of exploring here. So yeah, and we've had some amazing interactions. The ET guides behind our project have really pushed me out into the media. We had a few years offline because of the control here. That's sort of not as aggressive as China, but it's definitely there. But in the last couple of years, we've had some really, really big TV shows become interested in, and they always ask me to go out into the field and induce a sighting or kind of call the ships in, and almost every time we've had sightings come and ships come and I've filmed them. So that culminated in a huge event over Shibuya, which is that giant intersection you see in like Lost in Translation and everything, the biggest intersection in the world. It's it's about 5 minutes from my house.
In Tokyo,
right in the center of Tokyo. Yeah. So we had a group of 60 people on December 9th of last year on top of a building that's right at that intersection on about a 50th floor observatory. And we had, right as we started, a white orb come right near the group, like just a few, maybe 10 meters away and buzz the group. and then we did a giant circle and a giant meditation, and they pulled out all the stops. They had like what looked to be like white spotlights in the sky that were coming from inside of the clouds, and they were like moving in different anomalous formations. So I think it's been really intense to be in this kind of lockdown culture, doing contact on the front line and just inducing it now, and seeing, you know, the information up until now has been a great foundation to work from, but it's so exciting and so inspirational to find that this phenomenon is active. It's right there. It's growing right there with us, and they respond to our requests at you know, almost instantly at times.
Well, so do you do a CE5 to Greer CE5 protocol to call them in, or do you modify it with your own stuff?
Both. I do both. I brought CE5. I introduced CE5 to Japan since 2010, and working with CSETI from that time very closely. And then I've also modified that more with one of my other big inspirations is Lisa Renee. She's the energetic synthesis. She's like a soul sister of mine. Huge influence.
Oh, let's get Lisa Renee on Portal.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's serious.
She in Los Angeles? She's in.
No, she's now. She moved around quite a bit, but I think they're in North Carolina, I believe now. But yeah, we spoke on mail briefly over the holidays. But yeah, I incorporated her 12D shield, which is that kind of it's almost like you know, encompassing the group in this giant cylinder. And then it's become more and more of an energy work thing in the field now. Just it's a shortcut to really you could skip a lot of the meditation and just cut right to the chase with this establishing the energetic connection.
Great. Oh, you know, I just remembered, Pete, there's a famous case from, I think, the 1600s off the coast of Japan. Where,
Usurobune.
Yeah, talk about that for a second. Yes.
That was roughly 1803. Dates vary. It happened in Hitachi, Ibaraki Prefecture. What happened was a ship. If you look at drawings from the time, it looks more or less like a UFO. Washed ashore there. Some fishermen found it. It opened up. A young lady stepped out. They said she was extraordinarily beautiful, obviously foreign. She spoke a language no one in the village could understand. Inside her ship was strange writing, beautiful, exotic, ornaments and such. She held a box which she would not let go. She held on to that box for dear life. Boy, I wish we could go back in time and find out what was in that box.
Right.
But basically, they gave her some provisions and they sent her on her way, which was tradition at the time. Yeah, that's a very famous case. There's actually an English book about, or translation, an English translation of a book all about it you can find. Yeah.
That place actually is, I think it was Edgar Mitchell who viewed Japan from the space shuttle, and that place, Hitachi, he said it was like glowing, and we've had amazing contact there. It's just not too far from Narita Airport, but there is something special. There's a giant shrine there as well.
It sounds like a power spot or a portal, right? I mean,
yeah, I think so.
Been activated.
Yeah, you know, Pete,
I have a question for Pete, real quick.
Yeah.
So MUFON, a lot of people in the States that are like into the spiritual extraterrestrial connection, when it comes to thinking about MUFON, a lot of them believe it's like the mainstream, more nuts and bolts narrative, right? And I've been working with MUFON Orange County for the last 2 years because they couldn't do their live events. So I've been doing it online. So they've been doing it through Portal to Ascension. So I got to know them. I've had friends that were, part of directors and different things in MUFON. And I realized it's not really just that. It's a really wide range of information, right? You have like the spiritual, the experiencers, and the sightings reports. So my question is, being in Japan and seeming to be more of a community that is more connected to the spiritual essence, do you feel that the more sightings, the more reports you get are connected to that spiritual energy, rather like as opposed to maybe just the mainstream of just reporting the sightings that you may find in other countries?
Absolutely. In fact, you make a great point there. Absolutely. In fact, while we may see sightings or cases that on the surface are very similar to what you might see in the States, the people that report these sightings or these experiences do feel a more spiritual connection. That's one of the big differences. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Also, I was going to say for Shao, can you talk about? You said some of the Chinese people, a lot of the Chinese people were having these interdimensional interactions with these people in dreams, and can you talk about some of the cases that you've come across and are documenting with some of the Chinese spiritual visionaries? Yeah.
Yeah, it appeared to me that seems like uh, dream content is the most common content modality in China at this stage. But the issue is a lot of people not aware of that, and people don't even sometimes know that they are actually having a contact experience because everybody know in this panel that sometimes the higher realm beings can appear as a celebrities or they are passed away relatives and talking to them and give them information. So they don't know like who are those beings. They just saw, that's just I had a great dream. But what I actually learned from that is they tend to become more spiritual. One of the cases which I can share is I know a girl. She shared that with me through an email. She said, when she had a lucid dream, and in the dream, her past some kind of like her relatives came, like her great grandmother or something, and told her very clearly in the dream, say, look, you have a good heart, but you also very misbehaved. You did something wrong in your life. You must change the course of your life. Otherwise, and then they just show her quite a few visions and things about going to hell, things like that. So basically, after that dream, believe it or not, some people may have a very profound dream. Just by one dream, she literally had that life transformation. She's no longer behave as such person as she was. So I just want to highlight that sometimes a dream contact can be very powerful method to wake people up. And I've got that a lot from people, like people email me all the time. So say, oh, the other day I had that dream, the being told me this about to happen. And people may change their like a diet habit just because in the dream state, they learn this and that. That's just very entry level dreams. And some people may be more aware that they are having a contact. So they will say, I meet this being from this planet, they told me this and that. I think, Alan, a lot of time, whether or not they have that level of awareness as whether they actually making that a contact with extraterrestrials or just they present themselves as a friend or celebrity is based on that individual's kind of openness. Some
Yeah.
people are open to it, so aliens don't mind to show you like what they actually look like, where they're from. Where some people, even though they say they like to see ETs, but they are very fearful. So that's why some of the ETs will appear in a dream as like, I don't know, like a famous celebrity or could be their mom and dad. But dream contact, you're absolutely spot on, is the most common contact modality in China right now.
It's probably the safest too, right? Because
Yeah, it's easier it's just the most soft way to kind of break into their consciousness in a non-invasive method. Like that's what's happening. So once they kind of can accept that, gradually will evolve to a more clear lucid dreaming state, and the next stage will be UFO sightings and maybe more closer contact. See the orbs and others. Yeah,
yeah, isn't it interesting, Neil? Like all over, people are having similar experiences. It's like this.
It's definitely, it's not, it's interesting for sure, but I kind of felt that it probably would be, right, because this is definitely a global connection. We just happen to be in the US, and I say often that because on Portal to Ascension, I had emails from people all over the place, and I often give the example of the Kazakhstan family that hit me up. They don't have anybody they can talk to about it. The Indian family that once a week they get together to watch my UFO videos, UFO on Portal to Ascension when the internet's working, So like I realized that in the US, especially in California, oversaturated with this awareness, right? So just really branching out and reaching out to everybody around the world to provide community to people so that we can realize that that you're not alone, right? And this is happening, and it's an important part of who we are. Like the fact that we're not alone in this universe, like that's like one of the number one questions of like just our purpose on this planet, and our fact that we have amnesia and don't remember everything. Like we're one piece of this entire cosmos. So I just love everybody's sharing today.
Right. Well, that's Greg. Oh, go ahead, Shao. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just had to add to that dream contact one more point. What I also witness is funny behaviors from people and the feedback, for example, regarding the dream contact. If they're aware that they're having that kind of contact, so I will ask them, I say, hey, look, what kind of ETs are in contact with you in a dream state? The most two common type of ETs are the Nordics and the gray-like beings. So sometimes when you listen to it, you kind of say, oh, that's where it come from, that's where they are. Because how could you just have that two types of contact? I don't believe that, because I met all sorts of funny beings in different shapes and forms and this and that. So sometimes that makes me believe that because in China, information is very limited. So the understanding of ETs are very kind of limited to the stage that they, the gray-like aliens are most commonly seen alien forms through Hollywood movies and others. And Nordics, of course, everybody loves them, and Pleiadians and this and that. So people just have that kind of biased view about how ET should look like. So I think why they only see that two types of beings is because subconsciously they literally blocked or other types of contact with, the insectoid type or the animal-like beings or the light beings. So there is a lot of, sorry, I have to say that, maybe I'll offend someone, that there's a lot of bias or discrimination or racism even in the ET world in terms of who they want to contact. So that's the most two commonly seen ET beings that I have heard.
Yes. That's a really good point. People see what they know, and then as maybe conversations and other people make a breakthrough, they saw a mantis being, and then that field of awareness can filter into their consciousness.
Exactly.
Yeah. But Greg, how do we take this global? I mean, you're working in Japan, and we're all these isolated little civilizations, but this is like a major global human thing. This is a human issue. It's not isolated. So how can we take this global from your perspective?
Well, I think definitely, from my perspective, the C5 initiative is a huge one where, we really getting over that hurdle of, not only has this world been unconfirmed and unidentified, but it's all, that also means that it really is not supposed to exist. But when we have our own direct experience, and it's also repeatable, that's a huge revelation. And so I think inducing contact, whether it's indoors or outdoors, or just kind of being willing to take that initiative and kind of be open to the possibility is a huge starter for one. I also would love to see more training. We actually were inspired in 2012 to create a sort of curriculum or videos where really kind of getting people used to the visuals, of what the actual ships look like. There needs to be a sort of a public education as to, we have the words and the pieces are there, but it could be a little even more detailed. And I even went as far as to show the way the ships appear in a subtle form, the scintillating lights and everything. So I was really almost trained by the guides and then inspired to make that DVD so long ago. And so the need for new kind of curriculum, incorporating benevolent contact into maybe, VR or video games and all that stuff. There's so much more that we could get into in the future. Yeah.
So Greg, do you have information on, because you've done so many C5s, on different types of ships and what they look like then? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And more of the subtle phenomenon, even in daylight sightings. So I noticed, like, when the craft is kind of coming into the physical and moving back out into the non-physical. There's what they may have called neutrino lights, and a researcher in Japan here won the Nobel Prize for proving that neutrino lights have mass. Neutrino particles have mass, and so Dr. Reher has talked about that as well. And so you're able to increase the level of vision. It's sort of like, I call it high vision, where you've got your 5 sense vision plus the third eye. It's sort of like you're able to have a maybe seeing prana in the sky, and that the ships are able to interact with this kind of high vibe eyesight, and then you're able to see, you can have sightings in the daytime, and we've seen all sorts of we've had all sorts of people have that ability, that sort of high third eye come online with ET contact here. Yeah,
Well,
it's interesting.
Are there? Oh, go ahead, Pete. You guys say something, please.
Yeah, I just want to go back. Neil said something very profound that's relevant to this conversation. He was talking about, this is a part of us and we've forgotten it, right? And what this means is, it's true. We have latent abilities that we are not using. And it also goes back to what Shao was talking about, is how an entryway for some is in the dream state, right? For others, it may be simply witnessing a craft. For others lower down the scale, it may be just hearing about the Tic Tacs, right? In order for us to all raise up to get to that point where we are able to access this universal consciousness, become one with it, we all have to take our own journey. And it is slow, though. People are going at different rates. But exactly like Neil said, it's something we've forgotten. It's something that's within all of us. I don't think any of us here are special in the way that we make contact. I think that it's just something we've built up.
Wow, that is such a key point that you just made there. And you're not going to hear a lot of MUFON people in this country talking about that, but that's exactly the perspective that we all need to have, is that it's an evolution of awareness, and it's not just about nuts and bolts or craft. It's Greg, were you going to say something?
Pete and I had a discussion on YouTube, and he's gotten his own. He's taken the astral projection and ET contact combination quite far, and we got into some amazing territory in our interview there. So, do you want to share that a little bit, Pete?
Yeah.
Well, sure. Just for a moment, yeah. I come from an experiencer background, CE4, right? And so that was my introduction to it. And I've had 3, and I would call them abductions, in the sense that I did not ask to be taken. Okay? For me, that was my introduction to this phenomenon. What happened was, after a history of being involved in hypnotherapy, 20 years on, I decided to mix it up a bit. Something tugged at me. It may not have been a coincidence. I looked into the out-of-body experience. I found out that it was real. I took some courses. What I thought was, I think there's maybe a quicker way. So what I did is I combined some hypnotherapy with the typical astral projection process. And now I'm able to do so basically on any given day, as long as I have, an hour to spare in a quiet room. It's stuff it's possible. People can do this. There's nothing special about me. I practiced it and I do it. Yeah, absolutely.
What is it that can you briefly outline what it is you actually practice a little bit?
Absolutely. What I do is I put myself into a deeply hypnotic state, okay? At which point I proceed to use the vibrational method to exit my body. And what that involves is, and Greg talked about chakras earlier, is vibrating each of your chakras. I start from the root, I go all the way up to the crown. Once I get to the crown, I pop out of my body astrally. Intent is key. There are many people around the world that practice astral projection. When I first started doing this, my intent has always been to contact these visitors, right? And I went out there anonymously trying to find other people. Is anyone else doing this? Not many people are, but intent is key. That's what happens. I go into a deep hypnotic state, vibrate myself out, which is the traditional astral projection method, and boom, I'm out.
And does it happen every time that you intend it?
Almost every time. There are cases where I will fall asleep, I would say, and then happen to wake up at the end of the session. If I don't know if I was asleep or maybe they just didn't want me to remember. Yeah.
Wow. Sounds like a portal to ascension workshop, Neil, there, you know. But but who do you meet? So you pop out your intent, and then do you actually meet some beings out there?
Yeah. So in 2021, actually, I had 40 sessions of this, okay?
Wow.
Yeah, during those 40 sessions, I met with primarily 3 gray entities, 2 small grays, 1 tall gray. I also met with 2 mantis entities.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I can say is that I met with 5 is that they all exhibited some form of a personality or individuality, right? Now, when I go up there, it's not so much as, hey, I'm on this UFO, I'm going to go walk around. No, I'm a visitor, okay? And they have something to show me, yeah. So each and every time I've gone up, they've had something to show me.
And what did they show you or tell you or communicate to you? I mean, interesting.
Oh, a wide variety of things. I've seen how they fly the ships, for example. You know, they fly the ships via telepathy. I've seen part of their what we know as the hybridization program, where they raise children that look to be human to me up to about 30 years old, at which point they stop aging. They told me their overall mission is to help our ascension of souls. As humans, we have souls, and that's their job, to help our souls develop. Yeah.
Right. And you're in your astral body, you're not in your physical body.
That is correct, in my astral body, yeah.
Wow, that's great. That is a great contact modality experience right there.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I think we're opening up as a planetary civilization to the fact that we are energy and that consciousness is the key to who we are, not just the body. I mean, the body is great, but
Absolutely. It goes back just, the all points in space and time are connected, the space-time continuum. It's
and-
true, right? There's a universal consciousness we're all a part of. I am you, you are me, all of that.
so are you teaching this in Japan? Is this like something you're teaching?
I'm not teaching it to anybody. I have actually just recently I went public with it. I was afraid people would think I'm a lunatic. Tell you the truth, 2 years ago I didn't believe in chakras. This is all new ground to me.
You're a
as
natural.
well.
You're a natural, Pete. Jeez.
Apparently, yeah. But I just now went out and I'm trying to teach it to people on the internet, for free. If anyone's interested in learning how, contact me.
Great. Well, Greg, are there like spiritual leaders in Japan, Japanese people who are leading a kind of spiritual UFO connection movement? Like, who are they and what are they saying?
Well, we're of course, yeah, definitely. I'm a part of that. But yeah, I was going to say in reaction to that description is that I find that a lot of the old school, whether it be Hemisync is quite big here, or a lot of these old school modalities are kind of hitting the edge of they're hitting their shelf life, and it's going to be the ones that not to insult anyone, but the ones that are going to be able to shift into this higher dimensional perspective are the ones that are going to continue. That could be Reiki or anything. We're at such a turning point in the spiritual community, I think, and those who are ready to make contact are going to be the next vanguard. So yeah, I think oddly enough for me, it's been, rather than I've connected and interfaced with a lot of people that are not directly involved with the ET contact movement, but are interested. So that could be the ancient Koshinto, the ancient Shinto teachers, and I get invited to a lot of different schools and groups around Japan, and we collaborate and mingle our knowledge, and that sort of advances both of our worlds. Yeah.
So there are other are there spiritual teachers there that are coming out and saying, sort of what we're saying too there?
Yes, for sure. I think they're definitely, and especially with this YouTube shift, it's been a big explosion in the last couple of years. So there are people who haven't been published but are really active on YouTube, doing a lot of live streaming now, and have a huge following there. This sort of new generation has really come up into play in the last just year or two. So it's been exciting.
Wow, that's interesting. One more thing I wanted to cover in this kind of international forum, it's something I think about sometimes, is that, and I don't know, it's just from the perspective I see here in the U.S., is that the U.S. seems to have a imperialistic view or movement concerning UFOs, like, they go into Canada, get a crash craft, and in Mexico, and they've been down to Brazil, and they seem to dominate the disinformation and the disclosure world. I mean, although Shao told me a story about where the UFOs landed in China and the officials went up to them and made a treaty with these beings. But, well, Shao, why don't you talk about the U.S. role as an imperialistic force, and also where the Chinese have made their own agreements with the ETs?
Yeah, I think we have to learn a lot from Americans. Reason being, everything, regardless whether it's a fashion trend or kind of like a culture things, like all literally have to start from US first, and then slowly to be integrated into different countries. So I think it's actually not a bad idea to see more information come from USA first, and then other people just review it. Okay, that's how it work, and maybe we can.
But they dominate they dominate the scene, and maybe we don't hear about information from other parts of the world.
Yeah, true, and I understand where you're coming from, but that's a lot of work need to be done by people from different countries. For example, like a Japanese and Chinese and Korean, or French or European people, because when I watch YouTube, like I want to learn more information, more than 70% of spiritual ufology information from USA and Canada. But we just have to encourage people from different world to share more information about it. So rather than just wait for American to share first. But I do agree with you on that. Like, I'm just hoping that for the local North American, if they could just maybe just join different channel and listen to people like us. We got much to share about what's going on in Asia, Latin America, in European country. That'd be very interesting. So we can put all the puzzles together. So
it really pinpoints how backwards the powers that be are approaching this phenomenon, right? You have the American government with the largest military in the world, and they're approaching it from a military standpoint, right? Grant Cameron and I had a conversation the other day about, rumors that they've had craft and stuff. They can't figure out how to fly it. Well, of course you can't. You're approaching it from the complete opposite way you should, right? You aren't thinking consciousness links here. You're thinking, how can I get this thing up in the air and maintain air superiority?
Right. That's, of course, going to backfire on them. But we really do have, like Shao said, we have to come together as a global population and put all the pieces together and see what we're really dealing with, because I think part of the reason that it's not being disclosed is that the governments of the world don't know what's here. Like, they're just, like you said, Pete, looking at it in terms of military. So
the reason why I hesitated to answer your question, Alan, about the people taking the lead here is because up until that YouTube explosion of a couple years ago, there was a real kind of old boys network and a serious media control laid out here. And that's also part of the culture where this senpai and kohai, where the pioneers of the field have such a dominant legacy that the newcomers are always under their wing. So that's why people might be wondering, why are Pete and I, two Americans, doing this in Japan, is that we're able to escape that cultural control. It's a very top-down, a very traditional society in Japan. So the kind of the U.S. intelligence elements have worked with that to their advantage up until very recently. So the actual UFO research scene has been pretty tightly controlled. And
well, who were the old guards? Who were you talking about specifically? The old.
One guy, I won't. Well, he's past 80 now, but his Yaoi Junichi, he had the largest. I think he did several hundred shows. He had a long running primetime special on UFOs through the 90s and stuff. And the only information available at that time had a certain X-Files twist to it. But even after he retired, his group and his sort of dominance he was working with what we now know to be kind of US controlled elements and whatnot. So we had that kind of shadow and he was on not on my back, but we had a lot of media opportunities stolen and interfered with these. One of the other ones is a magazine called Moo, and in an interview Pete and I did together, people might have seen the recent Fukushima Research Center. This was sort of like a PR stunt, and it's like this magazine. They've really, the UFO subject was sort of put into the quote unquote occult topic, where it's dealt with along with hauntings and Blair Witch Project, like Poltergeist there. So, and also the Nessie, like Loch Ness Monster. So they've had this sort of a not very serious spin on it. So besides Bashar and like Neil said, Lissa Royal and besides the channeling people here, there was a very dearth. There was a lack of quality content. So that was our mission, to really kind of be that bridge between the more spiritual audience and to kind of get past this stigmata of the past.
So it's like the old guard didn't even consider consciousness or spirituality. It was just all nuts and bolts. Is that?
Yeah, nuts and bolts, very fear based. Yeah.
I mean, was the same here. These old guard, I liked Stanton Friedman, but he would never talk about consciousness or,
Yeah. Remember the show Unsolved Mysteries? I don't even remember who that host is. Imagine if that host was still on TV. It's just that kind of unnatural kind of they have a very strong legacy culture here in Japan, where unless the person either dies or retires, it's the same in the scientific community. The theories don't change until the scientists pass away. They say,
right. That's what they say everywhere, though.
Yeah. Thank goodness. Thank goodness there's been this changing of the generations.
In China too, Xiao, you were saying?
Look, I totally agree. I have experienced so much like that from China, to be honest. Those oh gods, they just feel like, I've been here so long, you are the newcomer, who are you, why you suddenly become very famous. So that they just want to win the respect. So if you're a newcomer, even the younger generation, you just have to under their wing, or they overshadow you. Everything you do seems like I have to report to them, let them know. Even the conference, you have to invite them, otherwise they get upset. I've got an instance which is real story. Someone in our community just got so jealous about quite a few things, they literally called the police, try to ruin the conference. And we didn't do anything wrong to them, they're just not happy with that. They just want to ruin things up. So you get people behave like that in our community. I'm not talking about other countries, just from my own experience and my friends' experience. These things do happen in China. That kind of legacy, I've been talking about this for 30 years. I'm here, who are you? Oh, they try to give you a bit of hard time. So you're constantly battling, not just on the government level, but from those old gods in the community, they are just lack of that collaboration, try to support each other to see things to raise up. And so not to mention about, consciousness. It's like a new thing done. Like they wouldn't even go there. It's just very difficult.
Right. And the problem is like they try to set the narrative, and that's why they want to keep that's how it is. This is what we're looking at. And what I'm finding here and all the things that Neil and I and a lot of people do, there is no narrative. There is no one story. It's what I like Linda Moulton Howe. She says this is like a 16-layer chess game. It's like no one has the whole view of this thing, because I think it may be beyond at some point our level of the limited human being's understanding. I think we have the capacity, right? If we separate ourselves from like our conditioning, right? Were you going to say that?
100%. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Whitley Strieber has a great quote in a recent documentary where he says, "We need to hold on to the question." The implication being, once we start to think we have the answer, we're on the wrong track, right? And there very well may be biological limitations within our physical forms that keep us from understanding what this is, right?
Wow.
It might be like trying to teach calculus to a snail. It's just not gonna happen, okay? Right? However, from my experience, from your experiences, we do know we have consciousness. I do believe we have souls. There is a way out. At some point, we will be able to understand. But in the here and now, it may not be possible. All we can do is try.
Thank you for beautiful. That's
really well said.
Yeah. No, I think we are equal to whatever's out there on a soul level. Yeah, you're right. We may not have the intellectual capacity. The thing not about the snail, I always say, does your dog know what you're doing on the computer? Like, it's like that. But I think through these altered states, through this time, we have a glimpse of meeting these beings on an equal ground. That's
what we're doing is we're peeking behind the curtain, all of us. The way the Shao's modalities, Greg's modalities, my modalities, yours. We're peeking behind the curtain. We know it's possible.
It is possible, but it's like these old guard ufology. We have to get beyond the box that we've put ourselves in as human beings. So.
I think we are getting out of the box, and it's actually happening on the mainstream narrative too. Because if you look at even like the mainstream disclosure that's coming out, right, and then everybody has their own opinions on whether they are doing it for the betterment of humanity or not. I personally feel if it's coming from a military perspective about weaponizing space, foregoing the fact that who these beings are and going straight to technology, maybe it's not for that. But even when they talk about the technology, they're getting interdimensional now with it, right? And for example, when one of the first hardcore disclosure things happened like 4 or 5 years ago, they were saying that these craft are doing things that we cannot do, right? And then they changed it about a year ago, right, on mainstream news outlets. And they said, well, actually, these craft are doing things that we know are possible and we've theorized and done on the subatomic level, but they're doing it something that will probably take us 1,000 years to get to in the future, right? So the whole understanding of multidimensionality is coming out. And then look at the government documents, NSA documents, CIA documents, what they're showing us in regards to, let's talk about the technology. They believe something even deeper on that level, like remote viewing programs is just scratching the surface really of what they know about consciousness. So besides all of that, it's already moved, I feel, into this multidimensional world. And I love what you said, Pete, because you're like saying so many things that I like to say a lot we pierce through the veil. And what I like to say with quantum physics, quantum reality, is that what we've done is we've pierced through the veil. We've realizing the quantum world is paradoxical to the Newtonian world, but the quantum world literally creates the Newtonian world.
Right.
What has happened here? We've pierced through the veil, and we're starting to realize the paradoxical nature of reality. And that taps into our unlimited human potential. If this is all some organic holographic projection, and I like to say organic because some people get upset with that whole holographic thing. But on the quantum world, subatomic particles are vibrating in and out of reality. That's a holographic projection right there, right? So we're phasing in and out. What else is possible is really what it comes down to,
Right. Well, I just think this kind of conversation is beautiful because I'm seeing the reality that people are realizing that we're part of an infinite universe, and that we're really all human, using the same human potential, and that there's really, in a way, no need for countries, no need for separation, no need for armies invading other people. I mean, it's like, maybe it's my Aquarian nature, but why are we not just all friends? It's like, how could we, it's like we're stuck. I mean, human civilization is stuck. China wants to invade Taiwan, and Russia, and the U.S. military. It's like, this is like 20th century thinking, and
nothing has changed. We're stuck. We're still clinging to these artificial constructs that have been around since human civilization began, and it's really frustrating for all of us, who have an understanding of this, to sit back and watch it. Yeah. Absolutely.
I know. One of my favorite lines from John Mack, and I put in an essay of his in the book. He says, UFOs are like an outreach program from the universe for the consciously impaired. And that's us, the consciously impaired. So.
We are creating a bridge, though, so it's exciting. All the down, the connection to the human body, and all the so-called upgrades, and a lot of people are timing the meditations, the global meditations, with key galactic alignments. There's been some amazingly powerful shifts in the last couple of years, and I find this whole changing of timelines and timeline bifurcation is a hot topic here lately.
Is it among the Japanese in particular?
Yes.
What are they saying about the timelines in particular?
Well, it's just like that even if you, it's like getting, I say, like, getting washed by a tsunami, and you can either as you continue to resist change, the wave gets stronger. But when you start to embrace change, you can then get under the edge of the wave and start surfing it and enjoy it, and then that's when reality creation starts.
Right. I mean, it's just, I think we're all like really pushing for this new perspective for the planet and for human consciousness. It's like, this is very satisfying to know that throughout the world, people are waking up to going beyond religion, going beyond nationalism or militarism or patriotism, all those old time religions, and that we can actually create a new world based on this level of communication. And I'm so happy to hear people in China are interacting in those altered states of dreams. They're actually having some experiences there that are even beyond the repression that's happening in China. There's still, you can't stop that inner connection to the phenomena. So where are we going? What's our plan as global citizens? What do you think? I mean, we're doing it by having a discussion, but is there anything else that we can do to, I don't know, wake up? I'm just putting it out there. I don't know. I'm just putting out what else is possible. Repeat, yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say, in my opinion, the best thing any individual can do is just be open about it, and that's a huge leap. It's a huge leap to go out there and say, "Listen, hey, it's a huge leap to say I believe in UFOs, or I believe in ETs, or I believe we can contact ETs, or it's a huge leap." But
Yeah.
if individuals, so many people around the globe have experienced this, if we all came out and shared it openly, that would start a wave.
Do you think maybe there's some ET civilization that's working with the governments to keep it secret because they're invested in something like Shao? You talked about that landing in China. Can you tell that story? Because maybe there's an ET presence that doesn't want to be known. Yeah. Tell that story, Shao.
Yeah, I just want to share a very famous case in China. It's called the Hangzhou airport incident. Reason why I want to share that is because there's a lot of very important information in the milestone, not just for Chinese, but also for the China as well as a nation. So what happened in a short summary is, I think back in 2011, I could be wrong about the date, like around July time. So there was a very like a cigar, or maybe more, yeah, like a cigar shape, like a rod shape UFO appeared at Hangzhou Airport at nighttime around 7 p.m. on 8 o'clock. So many people actually witnessed such a UFO sighting. But funny enough, straight after that incident, the government people arrived. They actually blocked the entire airport. So no flights can come in or out. If you know Hangzhou, it's actually a very large city in China. So that Hangzhou airport is very busy. In order for them to block the entire, flights coming in now, which is a pretty big job. So there's a different layers of truths released to the public. The first layer is people like the residents near the Hangzhou airport, not just the people in this side. They witnessed the UFO, so they take picture of it. So it's released in the media. It's just so many of them to the stage that it's literally impossible for the Chinese government to deny this actually happened. And then I even know the people. I literally met that person who was at that time in the airport trying to catch a flight back to where he from in different state in China. He saw, that's the second layer of the truth, the UFO actually landed at the airport. Because of that, they have no choice but to block the flights in and out. So that's just the second layer. People don't know. People just think, oh, according to the information online, this is sighting. But no, there's more than that. The second layer of the truth is that UFO is actually landed, not just that, cigar shape, but also there's like a smallish spaceship around and seems like try to protect this major mothership. So it's like a few hundred meters long. But there's a second layer to the truth, which is very interesting. I think I might be able to share a bit more, but not in super detail because I could be in trouble. What I heard from a very reliable source, I'm pretty confident that's 99% truth, is that UFO landed was pre-planned between the local government and the alien race. So what I actually heard is it's like a federation ship. So it's not just from a particular planet, but it's more like, we have a United Nations, so like a federation of like alien, some kind of connection. So the UFO actually landed, the military came, so they blocked the whole area, nobody can see because, they got all the kind of camps around the whole place. So what happened after that is there were 3 aliens came out of the spaceship. In the middle was a very short one. That's what I heard, like 150 centimeters tall, something like that. And 2 right next to it are very tall beings. So without going into too much detail, apparently they tried to strike a treaty with the military in China in exchange for 4 different things. Like, for example, like technology, medical benefits, something like that, without to be too much in detail. So I feel like that's how much I can share. But what I heard that they actually reached a treaty more or less. So that treaty will eventually impact the trajectory of China, like I'm talking as a nation. So that being classified as very a serious matter. So the people who share information with me literally got more than just verbal information. There's actual very concrete evidence from
Right.
so something like that. That's how much I can share. So I believe alien, like for those beings to come to this planet, they will not just sign one treaty with just American government. There must be quite a few with governments around the world.
Well, it sounds like the Eisenhower story. I don't know if it's true, where Eisenhower met these ETs and he did do a treaty where he would get technology from them in exchange for human abducting the citizens of this country at least. So I don't know if that's true, but if that did happen, it may have also happened. I know you can't say, but around the world in other countries. So I don't know. Do you think? Well, Greg and Pete.
Well, quick comment on that, Alan. As you were speaking, Shao, I remembered the citizen hearing of disclosure, right? And Dr. Sun Shi, the translator to Chairman Mao, was at the citizen hearing. Are you guys familiar with this? And he said, it's been so long, but he said something about the Chinese government having info about being connected to a dragon race. Something along those lines.
About the dragon race, but I can put this way. I'm not saying it's the truth. I'm just saying hypothetically that could happen. How could I say it? Like maybe the treaty are real. Like I don't know. I'm just put there for people to think about. And maybe the highest people in the government. I'm not saying who. I'm just saying could be already met with them. So that's not much I can say. Like, I believe it's more than just American government have that connection, and they all do. But look, it's not just what the alien wants, but also what the Chinese government wants. Of course, they don't want these things to be shared with the local people because it may create chaos and that's just what I feel like. It's just what they think, but their core belief is they don't want this alien open contact to affect their political regime, because if everything is revealed, it's going to shake the foundation of religion and politics. They got too much to lose, so they can't allow this full disclosure to happen.
Well, that's what's happening here in the U.S., I think, for the same reason. But, my question is, do you think there's ETs in charge of all the governments that are stopping disclosure? I know it's getting away from our other point, which was great about spiritual awakening, but that's what do you think?
I think definitely that my experience has been involved with that, and I take a look at it like a dimensional perspective. Even Rudolf Steiner spoke about the resistance he met, with the astral, like the lower astral realms, and breaking in through this. Speaking of piercing the veil, going from 4D into the actual interdimensional, sort of a 5D. Multidimensional includes the physical, the non-physical, and in the non-physical, there's the what we've experienced is, I think, a bias in the fourth dimension / astral realm, in all its gradations. So when we really clear and go out into the causal or the 5D and above, it's really a whole new ball game. And I think there's even there's elements of control for sure in 4D. I mean, that could involve even military psi programs like the remote viewing and remote influencing, which we've been had a lot of interference here with our project, and espionage and that element. And then there's also beings and in the lower, in the astral, who are just either ignorant or they have their own agenda. The collective consciousness of humanity in different societies that is resistant to change. And even as far back as Steiner, he talked about whether it be called spiritual attack or kind of resistance, that could be misconstrued in a lot of different ways.
No, but I think you're right. There could be lower astrals that are just trying to maintain the old vibration here, and that's why what we're all saying, it's about changing our vibration if we're going to break out of the matrix. And it doesn't
Yeah.
matter what government or what religion it's, the way out is the way in, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's there are literally, like, you start to, with that kind of enhanced psychic vision, you really start to see these constructs of limitation, and their spirit, emotional, their mental, their spiritual and energetic. And so I think with my training here, non-physically involved, sort of the key aspect, the chi aspect as well, and a lot of the energy workers and types of modalities. I interacted with here was a sort of training in energetic self-mastery. And that's really gotten to show me this, that other sort of unseen type of control, because there is a whole esoteric culture here in Asia, actually, of mudras and abusing. There was actually studied and incorporated by U.S. Intelligence over the years, but there's many ways to use the hands to actually get, politicians here and have problems with that. And there's energetic interference and ancient techniques that have tie into Igong and Qigong and stuff like that as well. And so that was my training with this astral thing, because I would be doing a lecture, and someone would what they call the overshadow, like someone in the audience is all of a sudden like breaking my train of thought, and and I would get washed away, and then sometimes I would realize that they were aware of it, and then other times I would say, hey, stop that. I stopped my lecture and say, would you stop that with your hands? And then they literally snap out of a trance, and they're saying, oh, what? And they come up to me afterwards and say, I'm so sorry, did I do something to offend you? And then and then it turned out they were what they call in Japanese hyoi. They're like overshadowed by a spirit of some sort.
Wow.
Alan, you said something so brilliant there, and what it was is the way out is to go in. And on a much smaller scale, I'd like to use an analogy I talk about when I talk about astral projection. People think astral projection is, okay, I'm going to lay down and I'm just going to exit my body. That's not how it works. You go deep inside your own consciousness, and that allows you access to the astral realm. Now, that's a small example, but the same principle applies to everything we're talking about here.
Right.
The way out is to go in.
That makes sense, and it's like we have to go into our individuality in order to connect to the collective, in a sense, because on that deep core, we're all connected. We're all from around the world, and we're all speaking the same language, understanding the same ideas, and I think we as a human civilization can wake up to the fact of who we really are, our true essence that goes beyond those old limitations.
So we're connecting to source, right? That's even beyond the ET. That's the direction they're pointing us in. It's all back to source. Yeah.
You think the ETs are connecting us are pointing the way back to source?
Definitely. Yeah. They're just intermediaries. They're just a bridge, a way to help, a spark to light the fire. Yeah.
And maybe they're doing that because our disconnection, as some people say, may affect theirs. Like, the Bodhisattva vow, no one wakes up until everyone wakes up.
True. So, yes, that's beautiful. Yeah, I often use that analogy that the quickest way to a lot of times to explain who the ETs really are or how they interact with us is like a bodhisattva. Yeah.
Right. And something that Linda Moulton Howe says, the whole atomic explosion that happened, in Japan, actually sent a shockwave through our time-space continuum. I don't know if that's true, but it makes sense, that.
Yeah.
Well, Dolores Cannon was not into the esoterics, and she was regressing people, and it wasn't like she was looking for extraterrestrials or life between life regressions. And then all of a sudden, through her technique, she was getting this voice in which she found out that many people were saying the same thing, that as soon as nuclear testing began, before the Japan when they were testing, that there was this call out to the universe, and there was the law of non interference, right? So, and Gene Roddenberry, like that's a whole podcast on its own where he got his information from. But in that law of non-interference meant the best way to make change on Earth was to incarnate onto Earth.
The star seeds, that's a beautiful one.
And there goes the boom.
Although the non-interference law doesn't seem to really be in effect, because there's been a lot.
That's the whole end of quarantine thing. Well, the whole prophecy that many people said the end of quarantine is that the law of non-interference has pretty much gone now, but they're still waiting for us to be at the conscious level in order to really communicate without creating wars and all that disharmonic things.
So maybe we should continue and have a maybe live worldwide forum, where a lot of us can gather, and maybe Japan or someplace where we can all share information of this higher conscious and techniques for lucid dreaming and out of body travel. These are all human potentials that we've forgotten. I mean, the Egyptians knew it. The Egyptians trained in that Ba and Ka, and so that's part of the suppression of the matrix, is to keep us from our true gifts. And
a lot of the hidden human history, as it's been called. So we're actually retrieving a lot of that light code, and it's a part of the genetic manipulation that went on, and the upgrades and downgrades. I think that's when you get deeper and deeper into contact, the esoteric elements start to come into play, and we've had damage in the light body, and so a lot of the healing work we do with the ET guides is kind of replenishing the energy body and the spiritualization of the aura.
That's the portal to ascension. That's exactly the portal you're talking
It's
about.
our own ship. Yeah, it's our own. We have our own light ship. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're in such an accelerated time that I think we just have to keep having this conversation worldwide and bring in more people. There's a woman from Iran who wants to come in on the next conversation, and South America has a huge UFO and spiritual connection, all over Latin America, and the Italians and the French and the English. The people
France released the UFO documents years before most people in the world, definitely before the US. So that would be a really interesting thing to go deep into.
So what we're all saying, this is a worldwide phenomenon. This is not about countries or races or nationalities. And it needs to be looked at like that. So even if the U.S. has hearings, it'll probably just be all focused on what we know, which, who knows if that'll ever happen. But I think it's like somebody said, and Mark Sims actually originated, he said, this is a people's movement. This is up to us. So let's keep connecting.
Put the pedal to the metal. Put the pedal to the metal.
So Shao, where's your work going in ufology now for next couple of months or years?
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to do, is to connect with Asian UFO researcher like Pete and Great. So we try to form some kind of a contact, more like alliance, without legally speaking, institutional mode, but more like a friend. We catch up, so we just want to exchange some information about what's going on in the Asia continent, keep everybody up to date, and then if we know any progressive information from Asia, like in China, Japan, or Korea, then we can share with you the new, and we just to keep that dialogue ongoing. For example, the next topic could be the open contact. So what I've been told last year in April by ET beings is she made it very clear to me that full contact will happen. There's literally no doubt about that, but I haven't been told about date. So I think something will happen. It's maybe just some kind of divine, interventional somehow will happen beyond just the human level. We are doing what we do at this stage, but something will happen, big event that will push that major agenda to happen. So when that happens, I really want to focus on right now, even though it's jumpy a bit, is the post full disclosure movement. What's going to happen? What's our role in this grander scheme of things? What kind of role will you and Neil play? Will you just be a YouTuber, or you will be step up to become like an alien ambassador in some form? Like, I mean, in the official way, like all of us, what I've been told is have some kind of strategic alliance with certain group of ETs, and they all have different agendas. So I believe that when the post full disclosure happened, that's what I try to focus on, like getting in contact with Greg and Pete from Asia. We can gather those information and share with you and others like Neil. We can say, okay, from our information, that seems like when the post full disclosure going to happen, such and such will play a role in this. And when it happens, how the political things going to change, and whether or not we will have government structure is a big question. We may not even have that anymore. So how are we going to evolve to the next stage? How are we going to deal with the crisis, this and that? So I think I want to focus on that and share a bit more information from what I can hear from the ETs and my peers from Asia and other continents. So yeah,
that's so beautiful. That's 100% up my alley too. What I'm thinking, is about what the next step is. Because when I had a dream in 2008 to change the name to Portal to Ascension. The group had been around for 2 years online, and I had a 20-year download in one moment of everything that I was going to do, and pretty much everything, actually every single thing that I was downloaded happened maybe even 2 years before it was supposed to happen. And the eventual thing was to create landing docks, and not maybe. And then when I started evolving my consciousness to beyond the nuts and bolts, is more like contact centers, to interact and communicate. So right now I'm traveling the world full time looking for land to build the first one. Yeah.
Like one of the things I heard from my friends and I is they told me very clearly, they said, look, I know that you feel like you're small at this stage. You're talking about me like just the average Joe Blow in the world, get 9-to-5 jobs. But they say, we want you and others. They mentioned you and others, not just me, to be there at this stage, because you guys will play a bigger role in the future at this stage, because we're living such a paradigm, the matrix, which is who we are. We try to survive and get things done. But eventually when we make a major breakthrough, everything will change, and all of us will step up to fulfill our mission. I think there's more to it, more than just the current state of our work. I'm pretty confident about that. Yeah, I'm sure about this. We may have a bigger role to play in the future, Neil. So let's see.
As everything gets restructured, and in this new world, a lot of jobs and professions that currently exist will be obsolete, especially with certain technologies. And many people that are light workers working an accountant job, you know what I mean? Everybody's gonna be restructured, and a lot of people have been. I get this all the time. What's my mission? What's my purpose? When am I going to do it? And I'm just like, first of all, I feel we come with this light beam that just being allows you to really bring this energy there. But secondly, when stuff shifts even more and more, it's going to be game time, and a lot of us that are like overseas from each other probably be hanging out more in person and doing some actual shifts in the world.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that totally resonates with me. So we just have to prepare for what's coming next. So, yeah.
I just want to say there are people starting to build an embassy. There's a guy in Canada, Sylvain, and there's another guy in Missouri. But also, you reminded me, Xiao, of this organization that I invited someone. Do you see this here on the screen?
Yes. Yeah, ICAR. Yes.
Do you know that group?
No. Now I know. International Community for Alien. Yep.
Yeah, it's Don Schmidt told me about this, and this is an international where they are collecting different countries together to be part of this international community of alien research. Let me see. I haven't looked at this that much, but the core activities. Do you see that on the screen?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned about this. I know a senior UFO researcher in China. He has actually got closer contact with a Syrian group. And he literally just told me a few times this year that he has set up an embassy for the Syrian aliens. So he's one of their ambassadors. I was like, that's very interesting. So you can see that structure is basically a blossom everywhere in the world at this stage, even in China, a very much suppressed sort of country at this stage.
Yeah. Do you see this page about the international roundtables too? Do you see?
Yeah.
Did that come up?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think we should join forces with these. I actually invited someone from this organization, the ICER organization, on, but I guess they couldn't make it. So there are things going on that. Oops. I don't know why that's happening.
We were introduced to some land in northern Japan last year. Definitely, that's not far from Sapporo in Hokkaido, the northern island of Japan. So that came up for us as well last year. It's a exciting proposition to have. Yeah, it's just like you guys are saying. What an amazing vision for the future, and you know, just when things, all the resources we need, just you know, start to appear, you know, quite magically. So as long as you move in the direction of taking it to the next step, all, you know, really big forces kind of get behind you.
Right. So I think as these light centers kind of pop up, part of maybe our job is connect the dots, right? Because everyone's just there's guys in Brazil, the Docula organization, and there's Sixto Paz doing something in Peru, and so there are people, and it'd be great to get some of those leaders together in our next discussion.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you know, I think part of what we're doing is connecting the dots for you, the rest of the world who have no idea what's going on. They're just listening to whatever their government tells them, you know. And so it's exciting times. I think we're really all, and everyone watching on YouTube is at the cutting edge of what's possible. And you know, imagine the whole planet waking up together like that. It's pretty miraculous. So so where's your work go then, Greg? And what's your plans for the next months and years?
I'm working on 3 books right now, and one of them is a full color kind of ascension activation book that we hope to get into English as well. Yeah, but we're sort of winter is always a time where I'm working on video and kind of book projects and everything, and then we're hoping to just continue to serve our community, and you know, we do our contact seminars and outings, and so eventually we have a quite a large archive of night vision footage in all of our field work, so I hope to be able to put that into some sort of documentary film in the next year or so as well. And I definitely look forward to you know, collaborating with all you guys in the near future as well.
Definitely be great to and what about you, Pete? What's the MUFON Japan? Where's that going?
Yeah, I just hope to continue to raise awareness here in Japan. Also help collaborate with all of us in the international community. I'm also, in this year, I'm looking forward to presenting and trying to help people use the contact modality I use to reach aliens via astral projection, and just follow the path. I think we all have a path. I have a path. I'm going to follow it.
Do you think the aliens are getting close? Whatever we call them, maybe they're not even alien, but is that getting closer to us, or are we getting closer to them? I mean, what is your feeling? Because
I couldn't say, to tell you the truth. I don't have the answer to that. I hope so. My fingers are crossed.
you know, when I said that, maybe I thought of Whitley Strieber's ideas, like when we wake up to the fact that something's there, that's a invitation for them to meet us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean that's the ideal. The reason I say that I don't know is because, of course, the state of the world right now is just in upheaval, right? You know, hopefully all of this dies down and we can all continue the consciousness movement, and we will be getting closer.
Great. And Neil, Portal to Ascension, tell everybody what's coming up there, because it's very exciting.
Yeah, so I'll just mention a few upcoming events. Well, firstly, I'll jump forward about a month and a half or so to our signature annual conference, Portal to Ascension Conference. This is the, I guess it's the 6th annual, but we did 2 in 1 year, so I don't even know how to calculate that at this point. But so it's basically 5th/6th, 5.5th annual Portal to Ascension Conference. We have 35 speakers, 2 panels, 7 MCs, 10 hours a day, April 15th, 16th, and 17th. And it's just what we've been doing over the last couple of years since it was live in Irvine, and it's going to be back live again in San Diego in 2023, in April 2023, right next to SeaWorld. It's going to be a beautiful experience there. So the ones that we've been doing online since, you know, this whole current world situation, we've done 3 of them now, have been free or by donation. And the intention for it is just to infuse the timeline with nonstop consciousness, positivity. If there was a subheading to this, it would be heal the divide, you know, and just like come together. And I'm actually creating a conference called Heal the Divide in June, which is going to specifically be about unity consciousness. So that one is free or by donation. portal2ascension.org. Go to the online events, sign up there. And then just a couple other amazing events coming up. Well, Marina Seren, Make Contact with ETs, different ways to contact and interact with ETs, is on Thursday this week. And then we have Kimora Jones, which is the following weekend. Creative
You guys
Identity.
know Kimora's artwork? Do you know who she is? It's Art Soldier 77. Amazing. Greg, you should see her.
Yeah.
Art Soldier 77. When I look at her work, it brings me into multidimensional awareness. It's a transference of
Beautiful.
Look
Yeah.
up
It's so
Art
incredible.
Soldier 77 on Instagram. Yeah.
Oh, this looks
Yeah.
very anime-like. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. And what else, Neil? Sorry.
All right, and the day before that, Laura Eisenhower is doing her event. And then on March 26th, something that I'm really, really, really excited for, that's kind of been years in the making. You know, we've done a lot of UFO events, spiritual ETs, walk-in starseeds, indigo stuff, but this one's called Extraterrestrial Races, Planets, and Technology. And I literally put that title on my to-do list 4 years ago, and it's finally happening. And basically, it's so many, normally we have like 6 people per event, but I just kept packing people on. So it's going to be like 12 to 13 hours. And, you can obviously get unlimited replay access, but just tell you about that. That's the immediate conference that I really want everybody to know about. Extraterrestrial Races, talking about different races and beings. I wanted to speak about that because for so long I hear Palladian this, Syrian this, Lyran this. Well, aren't those constellations full of multidimensional realities, and aren't there many different races from there? So why are we just specifically categorizing them as one type of race? So we're going to have some discussion over that. We're going to talk about planets. Is there anybody out there that knows what these planets look like? What's on the planets? What's the vegetation? So we're going to be talking about that. Technology. We have the 2 people talking about the technology. One will be Dan Winter, who is going to talk about, physics and basically his research and other mainstream research right now, and not so mainstream, I guess, that is getting us towards understanding how to travel interdimensionally and be able to, be the ETs visiting others. And then Adam Apollo, who's going to do a whole presentation on galactic technology through his astral traveling experiences. He's been to many, many, many civilizations, and we did a whole 4-hour galactic technology presentation like 5 years ago with him. So he's going to be bringing some of the technologies utilized with different races. Who else is going to be there? Geraldine Orozco, Phil Gruber, Barbara Lamb, Mary Rodwell, Joan of Angels, Sari Michael White, Jenna Layden, and then Alan and myself, and Adam Apollo as well. So that's going to be amazing. Only coming up in like 2 weeks from now.
Great. That's really fun. And for me, I'm speaking in Sedona at the Spring Ascension Retreat that Suzanne Ross is putting on with Geraldine Orozco and a bunch of other people, William Henry. That's a live event that might be online. Then I'm doing a UFO conference in San Francisco on March 25th, the Northern California UFO Con. Also, on this Sunday, I'm trying to arrange a dialogue between Geraldine Orozco and Marina Seren about ET contact and free will. Marina's been talking. Do you know Marina's work? She's been on my channel about.
Well, she's quite amazing young lady, is she?
She is a 20-year-old starseed, and what she's talking about now is this resistance to the alien hybrid agenda, where she doesn't want to give her genetics to these beings. She's saying no, and she feels like her space is being invaded by them and manipulated. And some people say, well, your higher consciousness agreed, so I want to have a little discussion with her and
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Geraldine, who's saying, well, maybe it's your higher consciousness agreed to, and your lower self is just resisting. And so I think it's interesting to bring up these free will discussions. So I'm trying to put that together. And
Let me know about that. I'd like to join in on that one.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. And then a bunch of other things. But
And
my
we're
book.
hanging out together too. Don't forget.
Yes, that's right. We're going to be in Sedona and Phoenix. We're going to be at a CE5, and then you can still get my book. I'll put this in the chat there. But actually, everyone on this talk here, like Pete and Greg and Shao, I'll send you a PDF of my book if you
Oh,
want.
thank you. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really need to share with Greg because he's got a strong connection with the publisher in Japan. So let's see if
Oh, well, I'll definitely send it. But that would be great to translate because this is an overview of all the great people in the field. So,
Excellent. Yeah.
excuse
We
me.
need the inspiration
Thank
here for
you.
sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, sorry. I guess that means an affirmation, right?
So
So,
they say that someone's talking about you when you sneeze. So those are all your fans talking about you, Alan, in Japan.
well, okay, so yeah, you can get my book, but the book is not just my book. It's really what I went in and tried to give overview from the nuts and bolts perspective from people like Nick Pope to like the deeper sense of consciousness. I got an unpublished essay by John Mack I put in there, and Whitley Strieber and Linda Moulton Howe and J.J. Hurtak and Desiree Hurtak and Mary Rodwell, who's talking about starseeds. She's in Australia. Do you know Mary, Shao?
oh, absolutely. We know each other pretty well, and she's such an amazing lady. She helped me
She
so
is.
much in the past years. I actually have a lot of respect for her. So yeah.
Mary is fantastic. I spoke with her just last week about astral travel, and she gave me some amazing tips. Yeah,
She is.
fantastic lady.
You're right. She is one of the all-stars of our team right there. So, and then Carolyn Corey just came out with a new movie called A Tear in the Sky. She writes a chapter, but her new movie is about this wormhole she detected with scientific instruments called A Tear in the Sky. It's out. It's going to be out in April, probably on an online release. So she is one of the leaders in our field too. I mean, we're all are, but there's people who are putting themselves out there no matter what. Like Neil. Neil is definitely putting himself out there in a big way. So thank you, everyone.
This has
For,
been so enlightening, and just want to say before you close out, Alan, from my end, very enlightening conversation, and you guys are really amazing people. I'm so glad to connect with you, Pete, Greg, Shao. Thank you so much.
Likewise, it's been wonderful. Thank you all.
yeah,
Thanks, everyone. It
so
was awesome.
let's do this again, guys. I mean, let's have a round table. We'll bring in the rest of the world because
Sure.
we're all connected. So yeah, no, this has been very good to just feel where we're all coming from. And are there any Japanese people that you'd like to bring in on the discussion maybe next time? Like,
Sure. We have several I could translate or we have a couple guests. We're definitely we work with a lot of teachers here. If you're interested,
yeah, and talking about their own experiences. So yeah, let's just increase this. Let's make it like really the whole world. Yes,
that'd be
exactly.
awesome.
Great. Well, I'm happy that we did this. Thank you, Shao, for creating this.
Thank you so much
you,
to
Shao.
you and you for inviting us. Truly, thanks for allowing the researchers' work to be shared with your.
Yeah, no, this is because we're sharing it in these isolated bubbles, but then we can come out to a worldwide platform on YouTube and talk to as many people who wants to listen. So great.
Yeah, look, I think it's the intelligence community's method to divide and conquer. We just need to join force and basically keep everybody in the loop about what's going on in Asia, in North America, in Latin America. At least we know who's who around. If we need information or seek a quick insight, I can reach out to you and Neil. Like, what do you think about that? We can keep everybody in the loop. Like Greg just about to have a conference, so
What's your conference, Greg? What's that?
Yeah, we're planning an online one. Yeah, just similar, like free by donation. So definitely I'd like to extend an invite to all of you. Thinking about July. That's our anniversary. So sometime in July, an online YouTube stream.
What's it going to be called?
Yeah, what's it called?
Well, it'll be under the ET-SPI moniker, which is the ET spiritual. They call spiritual in Japan SPI, and so it's just a ET spiritual. That's going to be one of the. It'll be under that moniker, basically.
Well,
yeah.
I'd love to share some stuff on that. I mean, if
That's actually the fastest way. Instead of before translating the book, you could do a presentation, just a thumbnail, overview.
yeah.
That'd be awesome.
No, I think it's great to keep, like Shao said, the dialogue open, because especially in the U.S., they're so self-centered here. They don't even know another world exists out there. So, and especially, well, the ET field is sort of like that too. It's kind of like, oh, what are the U.S. and they think they represent the world, but no.
Yeah. And I think what we've all covered here is the language barrier is also one key point, is that Japan is an island nation, and China has the firewall and the government control. So on both cases, you've got whatever gets translated is here, but the majority doesn't get translated, and then it just doesn't exist. So the pipes we're creating here are very, very important in that regard too.
Yeah. Thanks.
Right. Is your conference going to be in Japanese?
I would translate. We'll have a couple of translators, and I want to have Western researchers coming in here as well. So I want to do it both ways.
You want to stream it on Portal to Ascension?
That'd be great. Yeah.
And New Realities. You down?
Yeah. I'd love to stream that and bring that to the world. Yeah. Do you have a date for that?
I'm looking at probably early July, but definitely we'll be in we can talk about it. Yeah, I'm flexible.
Well, that sounds great. No, let's.
I'm not going anywhere for the time being.
You like Japan? Japan feels like home for you guys.
Yeah.
Great. Well, we're all in this together. Thanks.
So we'll have to do a part 2 of this roundtable before then. But yeah,
definitely. Oh, maybe every month we could bring more parts of the world in. That's what I see. Like doing this, keep the dialogue going, and like what Shao said, you discover something here, let's share it there and there and there, because we're connecting the dots. That's what I feel.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I think that's a brilliant idea to connect with Portal to Ascension with Greg's conference, and even with Pete, move on, because it's just promote the awareness of both, conferences. So Japanese will know, there's a Portal of Ascension. A lot of Asians actually can speak and listen to English, so they know, okay, where to go, how to join. And news viewers will be very interested into maybe information from Japan. So I think it's very mutual benefit sort of arrangement between
Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Awesome.
Well, this has been great, very educational for me, and hopefully people watching on YouTube. We had a pretty good audience on, YouTube, the regular.
Beautiful.
Customer. So yeah, and it's both on New Realities and Portal to Ascension. We'll send you the links if you want to watch or share it or something.
Definitely share it up. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Great. Good
Thank
work.
you, everyone.
Thank you,
Yeah,
everybody.
have a great night. Have a great day.
Now, it must be what, 2 a.m. in Japan there?
Yeah, just a little bit past. That's fine.
Oh, okay. And Australia too, it's late, isn't it?
Pete's got to go up on a ship in a minute. He's gonna.
Okay, go ahead. Say hello to, say hello to our friends.
Time for me to go in and then out.
Yeah.
Say hello to all our friends. Yeah. Okay.
I will. Yeah.
Right,
Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks
Bye.
for watching. We'll be in touch, guys. Thanks a million.
Sounds
Much
good.
love.
Thank you.
Bye.